Hello everyone. Welcome to today's webinar, 8 Steps for Building Your Home in Mexico. Your host today is founder and president of Top Mexico Real Estate, Thomas Lloyd. Thomas Lloyd is a graduate of Purdue University Krannert School of Management. He has been working professionally in Mexico since 1995. And in 2011, he was the first person to ever attain a nationally regulated real estate degree in Mexico. Thomas founded Top Mexico Real Estate to ensure Americans and Canadians have the best experience when purchasing and investing in real estate in Mexico. It is my pleasure to introduce Thomas Lloyd.
Hello, welcome to today's webinar, 8 Steps for Building Your Home in Mexico. In this webinar, we will show you the best way to build your home in Mexico following 8 steps. We will cover all the process from defining an idea to enjoying your brand new home, with all the in-betweens you need to know. Plus, you will see recommendations from the experts and testimonials from people who already went through this process. Building a home is a great experience. Getting to design your home to fit your dreams is a very creative process. Unfortunately for many, the idea of going through this in a foreign country is just an unthinkable option. We're here today to show you that it's not as complicated as you think if you know the basic steps that you need to follow and if you choose the right people. And to give you a better idea of what it takes building a home, we talked to some experts in the area and asked them for details about the process. Listening to them is like having a private consultation with the architects to solve your questions. So relax and start dreaming about your home here in Mexico. But before we start, I invite you to send any questions you have about building a home in Mexico. At the end of this webinar, we'll be giving away a free Live It tour worth $11.99 US among the participants, and your questions are your ticket to the raffle. So send them on in.
The Live It, Compare It, and Buy It tour is the best experience buying property right here in the Riviera Maya. It is an intensive real estate tour designed by our team here at Top Mexico, using our years of experience helping Americans and Canadians to make the move to buy, invest, and even retire here in Mexico. This ultimate experience begins from the comfort of your home by taking our online course, where you will have access to videos, kits, and ebooks to teach you everything you need to know about the real estate market in Mexico. This is the first step to making your dream a reality. You decide when you want to travel. In the meantime, you will be working closely with a buyer's representative to choose the properties and neighborhoods that you want to see. When you arrive, your personal buyer's representative will pick you up from the airport, take you to your destination, and tour the properties with you. Each day, you will receive private one-on-one classes with Top Mexico experts, such as rental management and legal counsel, and you will also spend time with Thomas Lloyd to answer any questions you have. You don't have to take our word for it. Check out what Kevin and Kathy had to say.
This is not something that we could have done on our own. We come down and just explore properties available, going through the Live It tour. I think it's definitely the best avenue for us. I can't imagine trying to look at properties any other way.
Our VIP real estate tour is a 7-day trip to visit properties in the Riviera Maya. The cost of this tour is $1,199 US. But to thank all of you for joining us today, we are offering a special price of only $899. After the webinar, you will receive an email with a link to sign up. Remember, one lucky viewer will be winning a free VIP real estate tour. So stay tuned for the raffle.
So you want a home in Mexico. Maybe you've been looking around and nothing fits your picture of a perfect home, but you're hesitant about building your own. Maybe it looks like an overwhelming project, but what if I tell you that you can break down the whole process to just 8 steps? Looks more doable, don't you think? Let's see what these 8 steps are. 1. know what you want. 2, set up a budget. 3, find a professional, then choose a design. 5 is make a plan. 6, get your permits. The 7th step is plan for the unplanned. And 8th, enjoy. The first step is knowing what you want. And with this, I'm not talking about just knowing which style you want in your house. There are many things that you need to figure out before you even buy your lot. Knowing what you want is vital for the process, because if you start your project without a goal, many factors can go wrong. It could grow beyond your budget. Maybe you're not allowed to build that type of home in the neighborhood. Maybe the lot isn't big enough for your project. You also need to define how you will use the property in the scope of the project. What's going to be included? How long will it take to complete, and how much are you willing to spend on it? Besides these details, having a clear idea of how you want your home to look is crucial for the process. But we will cover this specific point a little later. If you haven't bought a lot yet, you should consider the land options in your planning process. Check out the size of the lots available within your price range so you have an idea of the space you will have. Also, check out the restrictions of the communities that you like. There are neighborhoods that won't allow you to cut more than a certain percentage of the vegetation. Others might be off the grid. Some others won't allow you to build walls surrounding your lot, and so on. Finally, you will have to define if you're building in a single project or if you will complete your home in several steps. The second step is to set up a budget. This step is to set a total budget for the project and define how you will manage the cash flow. Actually, the steps 1 and 2 go hand in hand. By keeping both in mind, you will avoid your project growing out of control and, in the worst case scenario, having to pause your project temporarily or stop it definitively due to the lack of funds. If you have a budget defined from the beginning, undesirable situations like these can be avoided. Just as a reference, in Mexico, you can consider an average price of $500 to $700 per square meter of construction for a home with a simple finishings, up to $1,200 per square meter for a luxury project. Let's listen to some of the experts. They have some recommendations to share regarding the first 2 steps that we have covered so far. Now, what you want, and set up a budget.
The first thing to define is what they are trying to make. If it's a house for them to live, if it's a house they plan to rent, if it's a rental, if it's both, actually. That's important because it will have the influence on how we accommodate the spaces, what type of materials we use. Also, many times, as is the case of this house, people that are planning to rent the house ask for a little guest house for someone that can live there, or for the owners to go to when the house is rented.
Need to come up with a kind of financial plan for the house, like what you're trying to achieve, what the goals of that will be. And then that informs kind of all the decisions that happen after that.
If you think about a house, you think about many illusions. But then how you can do it depends on how you've gone to define the things you like. Actually, what I do is what I call my Santa Claus list. I tell clients to make the Santa Claus list, and I see if they can fit, if those lists and the items in it can fit in the project, or we have to just fit them in different stages and different ways and sizes. That's the way I think it is.
We like to divide the projects in 3 steps. The first is the design architectural project. The second is the permitting, and the third is the construction. So it's basically, when you think about budget, you can also think about these 3 steps, right? The first, you need to have the material to hand out to permits. In order to make the permits, you need to deliver a set of drawings that are the architectural drawings, installations, structural, and details of how the foundations go. And for that, you need a professional to help you with that. So that's the first part of the budget. The second part of the budget are permits. And there's also other things to have in consideration, which is the engineering. It concerns the survey on site to make sure what you have underground, if it's really stable soil to build on. Structural engineering fees, comes included in the project. And the third is the construction itself. And another thing that is very important too to define in the budget is a house with pool or without pool. Pools are expensive. It's more depending on the size of the pool and whether you are okay with having to do maintenance every day, or you prefer to have a system that cleans itself, the pool. So those are things to take in consideration when making a house.
Yeah. And I mean, another component is the interiors and the furnishings and this kind of thing, and that really depends per client if they want us to do the interiors as well. But that's something that is broken apart. So all of these things are basically broken apart in different aspects of the budget.
The budget is being defined by the project. If you know what you want in the project and it's already there, then it can be made to cost. You bring the costs of each item into a regular list of construction items, and then you program how to go into building it. The cost of a house, as far as one cost only, should include being able to go into the house and live it. Installations, functioning, lighting, flooring, finishes, and doors, of course, and windows. That's I think the prime cost for a construction. Once you have the building able to accept you living in it, then unexpected expenses come. It's because those happen when project ideas come to mind even after the project has been done, either from the architect or designer or the wife or the actual owner or whoever is near and gives a good idea. To deal with that, you have to first define in the most precise way what you want to do with the new idea. If you want a jacuzzi on the ceiling, then you have to understand what that involves as far as cost, structure, installations, and it's the ability of the constructor to give you a very close estimate of what you want to do with that idea.
We try to anticipate how much we're gonna need, and so we ask for we can set up a monthly payment with the client, or we can set it up per phase. Next phase is we're gonna start the foundations, make the structural build-up of the house, or we're gonna start doing the installations, or we're gonna start, we can set it up per phases. And the way we work is every month we issue a expense report to the client, so he knows where exactly what was bought, where the money was spent, basically.
Further elaboration on the cash flow point. That can be something that can really speed up or slow down a project, because if cash flow is not available, then it can really affect the progress of a project. So
the cost per square meter depends on what you want to do. For example, a house that has 100 square meters, after you've defined the project you want in it, if you think you like marble or wood or cement, that'll cost you the differences between each selection. It's sometimes the other way around. You say how much you want to spend, and then we'll try to match that amount. Because first you have to define, as far as the process of a project, you will have a site, you have a requisition of ideas, and then you have a budget, of course. They say, I want to spend, say, $1 million for whatever you want to do. And then you go from what you want to put in the space you have designed.
These first two steps are very personal. Make sure to give enough time to define your wants and needs and be realistic about the budget available. Then, once you start the construction process, you will need to help to follow up with the expenses. And here is where a professional builder or an architect enters into the picture. Now, in step 3, find a professional. Finding a person to oversee your project is crucial, and the best you can do is to go local. You need somebody with the knowledge of local materials and construction techniques, who speaks the language, and especially who can manage your project from the beginning all the way to the end. And I know that for many Americans and Canadians, it's in their genes to start renovating projects and modifying their own homes. But before you think about managing the process yourself, consider that building in Mexico is very different. I'd recommend you to save yourself some tears and find a professional builder or architect who will oversee the project from the design all the way to painting the walls. Considering that you will need permits and fulfill requisites, it is a much better idea to leave all these requirements in the hands of an experienced professional with all the necessary credentials and experience. Now, what characteristics should this person have? He should be very experienced. Offer a turnkey style service from the design and doing feasibility studies to the finishing details. He should speak English and Spanish, have good references, offer a good system to keep you informed of the progress. I cannot stress enough for the importance of finding the right person to lead your project. Don't go for the first option. Talk to different people and see who gets your idea. Make sure that this professional has experience in the type of project that you want. Either it's a luxury or a sustainable home. Choose somebody who has worked on similar projects. When you meet them, ask all the questions you need. Get all the details. Ask what's included in the contract, any extra costs that should be considered, and how you're going to be paying for his services. Request a timeline for completion of the project, etc. Get all the facts and don't hesitate asking for more details so you can choose wisely, because the person you hire to oversee the construction of your home is going to be invaluable. Let's take a look at a testimonial of a person, a Canadian, who went through this process of building in Mexico, and right after him, we'll see some recommendations from the experts.
My name is Phil Holland. I'm originally from Vancouver, Canada. We came to Mexico a few years ago and originally bought a condominium, and we enjoyed that quite a bit. But in the condominiums, there's a lot of restrictions about what you can and can't do, and a lot more noise. You're with a big group of people. Sometimes that's good, but sometimes it's not. So eventually we decided we'd like to sort of have the same lifestyle we have in Canada and have our own home down here. So we decided to build a house. The process started with us when we hired a local architect, Carlos Alamilio, to come in and help us work to produce a design. We actually did a lot of that work from Canada. So we worked by email, and we were getting drawings and renderings back and forth. Once the design was complete, we hired a general contractor. And something in Canada and Mexico, I think that was one of the areas we had early difficulty. The first contractor we had, we didn't check things about his background very well, and about 3 months into the project we had trouble and we had to fire him. And the whole process was a very nice process. The people that we worked with here were all really good people. It was difficult for me because I don't speak Spanish or Mayan, and the brick and concrete workers here, a lot of them are Mayan speaking, but fantastic people. So we were lucky we had really good workers. I think there's always some concern in Mexico about, will they show up? Are they capable? And the truth is that the workers we had were very capable and very reliable. I think that's actually something you have to be very careful of, because what we did find in Mexico is that the basic construction costs here are very low. I shouldn't say low, but they're very reasonable. Where the costs start to add up is when you start to choose the finishes, and if you try to build a house with finishes that are typical in the US and Canada, those prices are basically the same. But the basic construction, the actual structure of the building, we found the prices to be very good. Really, building down here is no different than building anywhere else. I think one of the most important things is to have a pretty clear understanding of what you actually want to build. Make sure you're working with a capable local architect, so that the local building methodologies are understood. It's not the same building down here as it is in Canada. We use so much wood. Down here there's no wood. Very different building style, but also a very good building style. So I think really understanding what you want, having a capable architect, trying to get your prices figured out ahead of time. Be very careful about selecting the lowest price. The lowest price isn't necessarily going to work here. We did find that some of the workers here will bid very low to get the project, and then they want additional money to actually finish it the way you want it finished. So it's better to take the time to understand exactly what you're getting for the money. And then typically, I think my experience is that we had a very good result.
I definitely recommend that you rather go with an architect. And it's not because we are architects that I'm recommending this. We worked with a lot of contractors in the past, and the fact is that contractors are budget-based, so to say. They will offer you a price for the house, and then whatever shortcuts they can take to make it cheaper, it's money and it's profit that they are making. I do think that the architects, in the end, they are concerned with the looks of the house, with the quality, with the satisfaction of the client. And I think they are always going to be on the client's side.
A lot of people maybe think that an architect is going to end up costing them more money, but at the end of the day, there's ways that the architect can work to save the client's money, in fact, and you end up with something that's much more valuable at the end,
The architect has to understand what the client wants, do the psychological profile of the client, and translate it into the actual project, which means understanding the site. That's one thing that's very, very important. Understanding the site is not just knowing where it's going to be, it's how things work around them, how other neighbors are located, how the vegetation, how the water bodies are close by, how the wind crosses, how the sun goes by, everything. If I want the house looking like a rock or glass or both or sheets of wood, whatever, depends on how they've actually come to understand their likenesses. So if they understand what they want and they have a good site, then the next thing is who will do it. It has to be someone with experience, with good qualifications, with actually being able to build what they designed, not just design on paper and not being able to do it on a site. That happens a lot. Many people have good architects that are not good builders. And so that in that case, they would have to be complemented by someone who knows how to build. And if they work together, a much better product will come. If you make a good cost estimate, you make a good project definition, via stages as far as advancing the costs, advancing the money for the things that are going to be built, and the actual results on the site. If you have a nice house and you don't do nice interiors, then it's a crash of a project. Good houses deserve good interiors. Good interiors, I mean good lighting, good furnishing, good positioning of stuff. If you match what the house does to the interiors with the furnishings and the accessories and the gadgets and stuff, then that's a rightly done project.
Remember to send in your questions. They're your ticket to the raffle, so send them on in. Now in step 4, choose a design. Choose a design sounds like a no-brainer, but choosing the way your home is going to look might be tough. If you're hiring the services of a builder who has pre-designed projects available, all you need to do is choose a model and maybe request some minor modifications. But if you're starting from scratch and you don't have a clear idea of how your dream home looks like, you should answer a few questions to help you narrow down your choices. So, are you going for a modern look or a Mexican hacienda style? Do you want a colorful or a minimalistic home? Is it a big house or a cozy little cabin? How do you want the garden to look? You also need to consider your hobbies, how much you're willing to spend in maintenance, if you're using gas or electric appliances, if you want solar panels or a pool. These are just a few considerations to make. The whole picture will depend on your personal circumstances, your taste, your budget, and of course on the fact that you're going to be building a home in Mexico, where the building methods are different and the majority of the construction is made of concrete. Keep it in mind when you're defining your project. Let's learn more about the process of designing a home by the experts.
We are more into open collaboration, which means is it's not that we're gonna do one option and do one scheme and then just insist and going on there. I think the way that we like most to work is like understand the qualities that the clients are looking and then develop 3 versions of it, for instance. And then it's not gonna ever be one version. It's gonna be, oh, I like this in this, I like that in that, and I like that in that, and then we match together and again, and we continuously continue this process of depuration to clean down and narrow down the options until getting to a thing that the client is really happy with. No, you know, it also depends on the budget that the client has, on how much he wants certain things, and how open the client is as well.
Clients usually have ideas about the design, but not all of them have clear ideas. It's hard to find a client that really knows what he wants. If a client knows what they want, they will get what they want if an architect has a good enough ability to translate that. But if a client doesn't really know what they want, it's the ability of the architect and the designer to make the illusions, the necessities, the ideas in the head of a client to be rightly translated into a design.
Once the budget and design have been established, you need to make a detailed plan and timeline, which outlines your date of completion, which contractors are needed for which steps, and what each one has to accomplish. Your builder will draw this plan, taking your needs into consideration, and discuss it with you. At this point, and before you start building, make sure to check the usage zoning, gathering the paperwork for the environmental studies and permits, and define when and how your funds will be available. All these items are crucial for the building process, so make sure to review all of them with your builder beforehand. Now, for you as a customer, it might be easy and important to have this timeline, but you also need to consider that a construction process in Mexico spans months, where many things can happen. So keep an open mind and try to be flexible. Now, step 6, get your permits. Very related to this step is the sixth one, permits. You cannot start construction without a permit, and therefore it's part of the planning process. Now, unless you decide to coordinate the building process yourself, it is your builder who's going to be in charge of getting all of these permits. In general terms, you only need one permit to proceed with building, a construction permit, but usually you need other permits to obtain this one. And this is when things get interesting, since they're not the same for all projects. Hence, the importance of having a reliable builder on your side. Just as a reference, I want to mention some of the permits needed to obtain a construction permit. First, you need environmental permits from the state and federal governments if you're building a home next to the beach. If your lot is wooded, you need a permit to remove any vegetation. If a union is involved, you need documents that prove that the workers are being paid. Even the construction permit will need a couple of endorsements, like approval from Hacienda, which is the equivalent to the IRS up in the States, and the health department. As you can see, the type of permits you need in order to get the construction permit vary. Make sure to have an expert by your side so you can navigate easily through all of these. Now, let's listen to what the experts have to say about these two steps so you know what to expect during all of these phases.
We like to break it down in like sub-phases. So what we're gonna do the coming month, and we estimate that it's completed in this time, and then we can plan the next phase and consequential. It's definitely not so easy, nor we like, because we prefer to not compromise quality to make things happen at a certain time. So we definitely prefer, if it happens tomorrow and tomorrow can happen much better, or if there's suddenly an opportunity for today to have that happening like much better, then we go for that, and we juggle things around to make that happen in the best way possible, rather than being really stressed about a timing and then compromise the quality or compromise the different steps or the sequence of different steps.
It's an inherently difficult task to plan something that's going to take over a year probably from start to finish. Of course, it's very difficult to control that, but based on previous experience, and I think the biggest thing is keeping everybody in communication, and you understand why there's delays, and then there's times when you can kind of speed things up and adjust things. So yeah, but it's an inherently difficult task for sure.
Timelines for a project have to be defined because that's the way a client is restful about it. First, they can vary because circumstances vary a lot when it's just ideas flowing in from one end to the other. If you have a delay on the client's side, then it should reflect on the actual delaying of the project. So you have to be very open and let the client know that those things can happen, because the flow of ideas is not a thing that can be defined as numbers and as objects. Sometimes ideas flow easily and sometimes they don't. The ability of an architect comes into a position of having the client to say that it'll take a bit longer. Good reasons have to be given because the client wants first good ideas and a good product. Timelines define how well you can fit into those schedules, but they can be flexible, and that's good to know, and that's good to let know the client.
Yeah, it's basically two permits you need. It's a permit to clean the site. It's called licencia de talla. It's a permit that allows you to go in the land and clean the land, chop the trees that you need to chop, and that is important because you can't go and do the sound surveys if you need to really make a cleanup. It's a very jungle lot. You can't go in to make the surveys before you have that license, right? And for logistics, the city actually likes to issue both together. So you do need, for the licencia de talla, you need to deliver the material that's already for the building permit as well. It's not a complicated process. It takes about 1 month, and it's needed to pay a certain fee that depends about the project, the soil use, and the square footage.
Whenever you start a construction, it's not even starting the construction, it's even before that. It's when you start a project. You have to be conscious of where you're at. If you're in a place that has rulings and regulations, if you study them correctly, then you will get the most project for your client. For example, there are places that can tell you that there's a restriction of so many meters from the end of the lot to the inside, but then in small words they tell you, but you can build the top of the garage on that restriction. Whoever does a project for a client in a compound with regulations, they really have to go into those regulations and the exceptions to the regulations and the applications of those regulations, so they could understand whatever they can do and have all the cards on their hands and to be able to manage them to get a better project.
Now, in step 7, plan for the unplanned. For many, this is a real challenge. Letting go of a strict schedule can be very difficult. You might be the most organized person. Maybe your builder is known for being very organized and never making mistakes. But still, building a home is a lengthy process where a lot of things can happen. Permits not coming out on time, changes in the price or shortage of materials, bad weather conditions, and so on. In other words, make a plan and follow a schedule, but be flexible. Be ready to change your plans or modify your agenda. All in all, the idea is to enjoy the process and trust the team you hired to work for you. If you did your homework and chose a professional team, they will know how to sail through any eventuality that shows up on the way. But they need you to keep your cool. And speaking of keeping her cool, we spoke to another Canadian who built a home in Mexico. Let's see her story and what she learned in the process. Right after that, the experts will talk about common obstacles and share a few recommendations with you.
My name is Bonnie Shutter, and I'm from British Columbia, Canada. Well, of course, we love Mexico. We love this part of Mexico. And we especially love Tulum. There's so much culture, international culture here, that we fell in love with Tulum. And as to why we built, my husband especially is not a very good traveler. He does much better. He's more empowered when he has roots, a spot to call home, a place to entertain, to have friends come to visit, that sort of thing. I owe its magnificence to our architects. I had ideas and spatial ideas, but they definitely had a lot of the gusto, the taste for, say, a bathroom. I gave them free rein in the bathrooms, and the bathrooms are gorgeous. The lighting, they did a beautiful job in the lighting. Spatially, we worked on it together a lot, like with what we were allowed, with the size of the lot, with what Aldea Zamas would allow us. The house got rented out from underneath us, and I didn't get to enjoy it as much as I'd have liked to yet, but we'll be back and hopefully get to enjoy it. It's a beautiful home. You've got to let go of European or North American time zone things. If definitely, you've got to feel a little bit more relaxed and trust that the person will be there but in his time, not in your uptight, it's time thing. Without that, you're in misery, I think.
Clients who don't understand the paper, the project in paper, and come into a site after a few months or weeks and are surprised by what's happening, even though it matches the project in paper. Then things will happen, because they will start changing things, and then everything will go out of project and process, and those things happen a lot.
I think that the architect, they're going to devote a year of their life to doing this project, and they want it to turn out well, because that's going to lead to future work and everything for them. And so that's like, I think in the beginning, like, a lot of clients don't trust architects, and I think they don't quite understand that we probably want the house to turn out even nicer than they do, and we spend an incredible amount of time and energy making sure that happens. I mean, we really work a lot of hours. I think every architect that I know works a lot of hours to make that happen. Really, an architect is your best friend and guiding you through this.
That is something that I think it's important for the clients, and it's recommendable that they pick someone that, they can visualize, to make sure that they can visualize the product and be happy with it before. You have to have a certain faith and a certain trust, right? Because invariably, wherever you're coming from or which country you grew up in, you'll have a different culture, and if you buy in a different country, the setting is going to be another, and people are going to work in a different way. I think above all, important is to have a good communication to whoever you're doing the project with, being an architect or a builder, and just really dialogue why things are happening or not happening, and what's going to happen, what can expect or not. And enjoy the process. I mean, it's nice. In the end, it's a creative process, so it should be enjoyable.
Send in your questions. We're starting our Q&A section in just a few minutes, and we have an expert ready to respond to all of your questions. And finally, in step 8, enjoy. Well, it's time to enjoy your home. Once the construction is completed and the utilities are set up, you will be ready to move in. And here's where the fun starts: decorating, painting, furnishing, the process of entering a house and turning it into your home. During this webinar, we already saw 2 testimonials of foreigners building in Mexico. They had something interesting to say about the construction process, but also both of them are happy with their outcome. Now, to inspire you, let's see a little more about the projects and the creative process of the architects that responded all of our questions for this webinar. They have many different styles, but both creating amazing homes that make the dreams of their customers come true. Let's take a look at this video.
This particular client was actually very informed design-wise. He knew what he wanted, he knows what he likes. So he informed a lot the project, and he was involved throughout all the different steps of the project. This was a remodel, was a house that existed, that he's renting, and we transformed completely.
The process of this house was particularly interesting because I think the client, in the beginning, he actually hired us just to do this main level, and we started there, and then it's like, okay, let's add some rooms below as well, and then we kind of went floor by floor.
In this case, I mean, we kept the shell of the house, but the interior was totally redone. We really opened up spaces, made it more spacious. The house was very small, of little additions, because was done in different periods by different people. So what we did was basically like cleaning all the interior and maintaining the shell, open up the house to the exterior, adding all these exterior decks to make the house actually really strongly related to the outside, to the outdoor jungle. No?
The concept of this house is a very open house, a very sunny house, but that has very nice located spaces that can give you very good human sensation. Whenever I design a house, I try to connect the dots of the functional side with the artistic or expressional side. Detail is very, very important as far as what I do is concerned. Details make the work. It's not the other way around. That's what I say. God is in details. It's something everybody says, and that's what I say too. And design, good design is in details. Everyday things become very important in the houses I built. A stairway, the way you lit a room, the way you let air through a room, the way you go from one room to the other, the way you feel what you go into a room. Using the senses in everyday fashion and very well solved in an everyday project as a house is very, very important from the way I see things while designing. And enjoying everyday things of an everyday life in a house is mainly what I look for.
Welcome, Diego. Thank you for joining us. This is Diego Arredondo. He's a local architect and builder who's going to be assisting me for the remainder of the webinar.
Yeah, thank you very much for inviting me. I'm very happy to be over here.
Good. Now, talking about the videos that we just saw, for me, it was very interesting to learn more about the renovation and construction process. And it's difficult not to be inspired, don't you think? At Top Mexico, we use the expression dream home. And listening to these architects, it's even more obvious that building a home is very closely related to their dreams, to your dreams. Also, if you enjoyed the interviews with the architects, you'll be happy to know that in a couple of days, we will be sending you the links to see the complete versions of each one of these interviews. Now it's time for the Q&A section. And Diego, you ready to start fielding some of these questions that the people have sent to us?
Perfect.
Okay. Let's see. Okay, this question is from Sophia, and it says, what is the best way to avoid direct sunlight while enjoying lots of natural light?
Well, it is very common to use what we call indirect sunlight. It's basically cut off area from the ceilings that will allow the light to come in naturally and maybe give a light of shower, natural light to some of the walls.
Okay, good. We actually, when we talk about that subject, there's a project that we did called Villas Bamboo, and they have a long hallway, and one of the concerns of this hallway was it was pretty dark, but they made that long slit, and it looks just wonderful, beautiful project there. So I guess that's one of the ways you can...
Either that or you can open domes as well. That would give you the same idea. It just won't be a direct, like a shower of light, natural light. It'll just be more opening to the main area.
I think some of your projects, I think that in the bathroom, you use that a lot in the shower section. Which...
Correct. You use it in, well, it can be used, it has to be used on the last roof of the house. This is the only one that wouldn't have a cover on top. But it's a very good idea to take advantage of that.
Now, Diego, the next question is from Rosalind. When you're building homes in Mexico, are you building in a community, or do you just buy a lot and build upon it?
Well, it is important as well that when you're looking for your new home to have a specific area. So it could be in a particular development that already has the size of lots, or you can look for a lot for yourself outside and build your house there.
Okay, exactly. There's a lot of projects like here in Playa del Carmen, a place called Playa Car in Tulum. There's Aldea Zama. These are planned communities, and in a planned community, or what we call a master developer, in there they had their own restrictions. Maybe the design of the exterior of the house, they have the restrictions on those, and you also have to build according to the guidelines that the municipality has.
Correct. In most cases, they do have their own restrictions, but I would say 90% of the cases, those restrictions come from what the municipality is asking for.
Exactly. Okay, Rosalind also has a question. Are there a number of building mediums available, or are they mostly just concrete buildings in Mexico?
Well, now you can see a big variety of building methods. The most common, it is building by bricks. It's also the most cost effective.
That would be the concrete blocks. Exactly.
Correct. So if you can choose to build in any ecological or concrete as you prefer. It wouldn't be restraining how you build your house.
Exactly. I'm making these numbers up, but about 80% is the concrete blocks. I'm talking mainly here along the coast in Quintana Roo. I'm starting to see the steel structures that they're starting to use a few of those.
Yeah, correct.
And wood, the wood is another option in there that people are using. Down in Tulum, you're starting to see a lot of the wood into it's a local wood that they use down here. I think that's important too. If you're using wood, there's an importance in the type of wood you use.
Well, it is very, very important, I believe, that if you're building into a certain area, to use what you can find locally. Not only that you will help the area that you're building in, but it would also be cheaper because they don't come from very long distances as materials.
And with that wood too, to my understanding is, especially here in Quintana Roo, the humidity it's an important factor. It's very, in the summertime and the August time period, the humidity really does affect the type of wood. So that's why, the experts here, they use what I've heard of 2 types of woods. And it's a hard wood, extremely hard, so it doesn't have that type of fluctuation as the other. So that's something you could be talking to the architects and your experts down here. What construction, can you give us a general sense of what building costs are like? Example, say if one is to buy an oceanfront or gated community lot, what would a 2,500 square foot, good quality, 2-story home with a double garage and swimming pool? Trent, thank you for the question, and he already knows more or less what he's looking for.
We're talking in what area?
I would imagine here along Quintana Roo on the beachfront. And can you give us some sense of what the building costs are like?
Correct. Okay, well, when you're building by the beach, you have to consider that the cost increment based on foundations.
Right.
You need a different sort of foundations than the one you use when you're normally building inland, because here is sand you're building on. So the basic price you can start with, it can be from $1,000 to, well, the sky is the limit to whatever finishes you want to put on.
Okay, good. So that's the trend. That's the more or less the quote is about $1,200, and that's per square meter.
Correct.
Per square meter, $1,200 per square meter. That's a rough estimate there, Trent. Okay, another question is from Lisa Masai. Lisa is asking, how long will it take to build a new home?
It depends. The price of a home depends on where you're building it and how many square meters you're going to be adding to your new home.
Okay.
Let's say an estimate right now, if you're not building, this would be as a comparison from what we just mentioned from the beach, maybe far away from the beach.
Okay.
You can start as low as $500 to $700 per square meter.
Diego, she's asking how long will it take to build a new home?
Okay, well, the time would vary depending on the cash flow you're putting into the construction,
Okay.
but it would go from 4 to 7 months.
Okay, that's not a tremendous time period. That's
No,
pretty good.
yes.
I know from what we have a couple of projects, and the difference with our projects is that they're not custom homes, so the design is already, that the model's already been defined. And I know we're going for about 4 to 6 months So a custom home to be from 5 to 7, as Diego, those are pretty good time periods.
All right.
Okay, Mr. Robert Heinzen, what is the best way to start searching for a building lot? Diego, I'm going to jump in. I think one of the first things is getting yourself a good buyer's representative. A buyer's representative, he most likely knows a lot of information of what's going on in the marketplace, whether it's Cancun, whether it's Puerto Vallarta, whether it's Tulum. He knows what's going on in the marketplace. And the first thing you want to do is start looking at options. Look what is available in a planned community, gated community. And also you can compare that with a good buyer's rep. He'll also give you options of what's downtown. Lots available outside of a planned gated community, so you can compare the pros and the cons of both options, and then look at the costing as well.
Yeah, that would be the best advice.
First step. Okay, I lost my place here. Okay, we have Timothy. What is a good price to figure for a home in Playa del Carmen per square foot? Okay, this is a good question. They're talking just about Playa del Carmen.
Correct. I think we got a bit ahead with the questions there.
Well, they're all mixed up
I
there.
kind of, yeah. Well, I got a bit of ahead with the answering the price. The price goes from $500 to $700 per square meter. In Playa del Carmen, if you're not talking about building on by the beach.
Okay. How would that compare, say, okay, so if you're not on the beach, you're looking at about $500 to $700 a square foot.
No, sorry, square meter.
Square meter. Okay, square meter.
And the difference there, because you might see a $200 difference, is basically what you do with your finishings, how fancy you're planning on going.
Exactly. Now, Diego, how would constructing in Playa del Carmen, is there a big difference with constructing in Cancun or Tulum? Do you see a big difference?
Maybe now not as much from Cancun and Playa del Carmen, but maybe if you go a bit farther down south, maybe not so much Tulum Center, but somewhere farther out.
Okay.
You could estimate an increase on the cost based on, because you have to bring all the materials either from Cancun or Playa del Carmen to that area. So there will be a little increase on the price.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. And if I could add, that's probably what you felt about 5 or 10 years ago when you're comparing Cancun to Playa del Carmen. And now Playa del Carmen, they have a lot of local suppliers. And I think now we're starting to see the same effect down in Tulum. Tulum is starting to really pick up pace. There's a lot of construction process. So I know we're starting to see suppliers pop up on a local level in Tulum. So.
Correct. Yeah, it's basically the same that happened here a few years back now. It's starting to roll down to Tulum.
Okay, Diego, let's see. The next question is, from Mr. Don, what are the legal restrictions for Americans or Canadians to build on a beachfront lot versus a non-beachfront lot more inland?
The restrictions don't apply to Americans or Canadians or Mexicans. There wouldn't be any difference there. The restrictions are given based on where your lot is, and well, that would also tell you how much you can build on the lot, what percentage of the lot you can use to build.
Okay. And exactly, there's really, Don, there's really not any type of restriction between being a non-Mexican versus a Mexican. So the restrictions basically, they come from on the beach. I would imagine that there's more restrictions on a municipality level, and versus being off of the beachfront because of the sand issues, the water coming in and out. So probably, like you said, the density, how much, if you have a lot, how much percentage they're allowing you to build. And then the other factor you also have to consider is if you're inside of a community, their restrictions probably just add on. So it's not out of the world because the restrictions are there for a purpose. And then also maybe you should, while you're looking at this, you should also consider reviewing with an insurance supplier because maybe they also have some guidelines what they need in order for an insurance company to put insurance on your property. They might have a small little list of requirements. And what comes to my mind is like a seawall basically in front. If it's a higher risk area of high tides and things. I don't know if you have any input with that, Diego.
Well, I think it's if you have already something in mind what you want for your new home, to consider all the different restrictions that can be in certain land, so that you can then bring those into the full project, and the project it's all one piece.
Yeah, exactly.
Restrictions and needs, and, well designed. And it's a union of a group of things.
And that's where the experts, the architects, I'm sure they have a checklist of all the factors. If you have all those factors from the very onset, the design phase, it goes a lot more quicker and efficient. So you don't have to keep going back and forth and changing the design of the house. These are the experts. So, okay, let's see. Mr. Ivan Smith, he's asking, why are all condos brick layered and not concrete form poured like in Canada and the U.S.? So, Diego, what do you think about that?
Well, the main fact about that's how they build in cold areas. Canada, the U.S., even Mexico City, you use a lot of concrete. And the fact that we don't use it here is because concrete accumulates a lot of heat from the sun during the day. And what we try to build here is in a fresher way. We try to keep the heat away from the house in order to save money on air conditioner and to live a bit fresher.
So the bricks, we're talking about those concrete blocks. I'm sure you've seen them, but they're hollow inside, and they're basically designed. This is very interesting, but they're also basically designed to give like that.
Yeah, the layer of air in this case would provide certain thermic resistance from the heat to go over.
Insulation.
It is, so you can call it like that, insulation. It is not 100% effective, so extra insulation could be provided if you want a better or less heat transmission.
Now, Diego, going up a little bit on that subject, are there any new type of materials being applied here in Mexico in these hot zones, like paint that's more resistant to the sun? Are you seeing anything come out into the market?
Yeah, there is actually a huge amount of products being out there, from new techniques to build with concrete and I can't recall it's Unicel.
Right, exactly. I know what you're.
Yeah,
Unicel. Styrofoam.
To paint, and well, there's a great variety.
Right.
Some of them haven't been tested within the years for a home, for example.
Right.
But there is a huge amount of different materials that you can use for construction.
I think a while back I was invited to a new company from northern Mexico. They're setting up some type of a plant in Puerto Morelos. Not so much a plant, but a distribution center. And we'll have to talk about that afterward. But it's a new type of material that's supposed to insulate or do this insulation a lot better. That can reduce the sun, the heating up of the home. So that's very interesting. The new technology coming in. Next question is from Russ. His question is, are estimates based on price per square foot, or can builds fluctuate? What are the general building permits costs? So if you want, let's jump into that building permit costs.
The cost of building permits, the municipal hub, they have their own way to calculate it. It is based on the project that you present to them. We can start with the very basics ones. There is a price for cleaning the land and the one for building.
Okay.
An average for that, if you put the two of them together, you'll probably be somewhere around $1,000 for a medium house.
Okay. And after you get that, you said how many permits are there total to get the construction permit, and then you have a completed project document? Can you give us a rough follow through on that?
If you're not building in any natural reserve or maybe at the beach where you require certain tests like the MIAS, Manifiesto de Impacto Ambiental,
Okay.
where each requires a biologist to come and look at what your building design is and if that could cause any damage to nature. The very basic ones is the permit for clearing the land.
Okay.
They come and check that there's no endangered species.
Right.
And if there is, they have to be removed according to the law. And if once you comply with a certain list of points, they will give you permission to clear the rest of the plants.
Okay. Okay, good. We're going to jump to one more question. They're giving us a thumbs up that we're running out of time, Diego.
Okay.
We still have a lot of questions here to go through, so I apologize to anybody that I wasn't able to get to their questions. So let's just shoot at the middle. It says, Mr. Michael Renouf, how long is the builder's guarantee normally in Mexico?
That would be the warranty that we provide the
Exactly.
homeowners for the house.
Exactly.
Well, the minimum we can provide is a year after we hand in the house. It's called vicios ocultos. So anything that comes during that first year, that could be maybe, I don't know, something that wasn't glued properly, or maybe the paint, it was painted with a bit of humidity and it came off, that would have to be fixed within that year.
That's a permit of the hidden defects.
Correct.
So you have a leak, something behind the wall, the builder will go in and repair such during a 12-month time period.
Correct.
That would occur after the legal delivery of the property.
Yes.
That's when the timeline starts.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's a very good question, Michael. Well, I guess that's all the questions we're going to have for this afternoon. Thank you for sending all of those questions in, and if you still have more questions, I know we left a lot on the table, but we'll get those over to a lot of the buyers' reps, and they'll get back with you with the answers on those. And we can
Perfect.
send them to you too.
Thank you
Diego.
very much. Yeah, of course.
Diego, can you help me with we're going to do the raffle now.
Okay. So just grab one.
Just shake it up. If you want, I'll shake it.
Okay.
We'll have to do that song from the Cars, Shake It Up. You know that song?
No?
That's before his time. The Cars. That's a good group
Okay.
there.
I'll get one.
Yeah, I didn't shake that up very well. Let's go. There we go. Okay.
Not watching. Should I open it?
Yeah, go ahead and see who wins there. It's Mr. Al Rinaldi. Al, congratulations. You just won the ticket. So for the Live It Tour, it's worth $11.99 US. So our office will be calling you up right away. You just won a free ticket down here to Mexico to start your search for a lot. You can meet Diego, and you guys can go out and you can have a lot more questions answered right with Diego and our team. And so now I want to thank all of you again for tuning in and being here this afternoon. And I want to thank Diego. Thanks, Diego.
Well, thank you very much for inviting me.
We hope this webinar was very informative and valuable experience for all of you. For me, it's always a lot of fun to be here and helping each one of you guys get your questions answered and helping you get your dream home down here in Mexico. It's a pleasure for me, and I know for all of our team, including Diego. He's helping several of our good friends from the U.S. and Canada make their dream home come true down here. We hope to see you guys in our next webinar. I'm Thomas Lloyd. This is Top Mexico Real Estate's webinar series. And don't forget, www.topmexicorealestate.com. We make it happen. Hasta luego.
Luego.